Labas, čia Vincentas Palubinskas, sveiki sugrįžę į tinklalaidę Lietuva Amerika. Šiandienos pokalbis su Eric Stewart, American-Lithuanian Business Council vadovu, apie tai, kas pastaruoju metu stipriai drebina transatlantinius santykius, apie naujus Donaldo Trumpo įvestus muitus, kurie smogia ne priešininkams, o sąjungininkams. Kalbame apie tai, ką reiškia Lietuvai, Europos Sąjungai ir visam vakarų pasauliui. Kaip keičiasi santykiai tarp Amerikos ir Europos, kaip tai paveiks bendrą strategiją, ekonominius ryšius ir mūsų saugumo architektūrą. Ir svarbiausia, kaip judėti pirmyn. Beje, jei turit minčių, klausimų ar temų, kurias norėtume, kad aptartume ateities laidose, drąsiai rašykite komentaruose. Šitas podcastas ne apie mus, jis apie tai, kas rūpi mums visiems. Ačiū ir gero klausimo. Maybe, first of all, you can say a few words, because everybody, of course, knows you, but, we have young generation listening. What about you, from Reagan administration, Trade Department, and what about American-Lithuanian Business Council, what we have accomplished, many jobs created, investors coming. So, first description, just to remind people about your mission.
Sure. You want me to go ahead and start?
Yes, let's do it. Yeah.
Great. Nice to meet you, Vincentas.
Nice to meet you too.
So my name is Eric Stewart, and I'm the founder and the CEO of the American-Lithuanian Business Council, and we are based in Washington, D.C. We were created 12 years ago and worked very closely with a gentleman named Žygimantas Pavilionis, who at the time was the Lithuanian ambassador to the United States. Together, we built the ALBC, the American-Lithuanian Business Council. It's comprised of American companies doing business or looking to do business in the country of Lithuania. And let me just be very clear that it's a unique council. Most countries of 3 million people don't have their own business councils in Washington, D.C. There's no Estonia Council. There's no Latvia Council. I know there's very special friends of Lithuania, but economically, Lithuania really has created an investment climate that is so special and so unique that has attracted many major American companies like Thermo Fisher Scientific being one of the flagship companies.
And that's why you said by celebrating your 55th birthday in Lithuania, that Lithuania is the most favorite country. So you like us.
I love Lithuania. And to be clear, Ambassador, it was 53rd birthday. It was my 53rd, not my 55th. So I just want to be very clear. I'm so a little bit younger. But yes, I'm the former U.S. Deputy Assistant Secretary working for President Bush back in the early 2000s. Traveled to 80 different countries, worked all over the world. And I decided last week when I was in Vilnius and announced to the Ambassador McDonald and to the crowd that I have now officially decided that Lithuania is, in fact, my favorite country anywhere in the world. Besides the U.S., I still do love my home country first, but outside of the U.S. And to be very clear, I have no personal genetic ties. I am not Lithuanian American. I don't have any descent. I'm actually more Polish Romanian, I believe, but I have decided. So now I'm probably in a lot of trouble because now, the other countries are going to listen that I've selected Lithuania. But let me tell you why. And in addition to the people, the energetic atmosphere that I feel when I'm in Vilnius, the food is wonderful. But Lithuania is a David versus Goliath story. They have been willing to always take on the Russians. And you've been telling me for many, many years, and you've been telling our government for many, many years, the Russians are interfering with our politics, interfering with our day-to-day. Their cybersecurity hacks. This has been going on well before the war in Ukraine. But also, Lithuania have been willing to take on the Chinese and say, hey, listen, you guys are cheating. Everyone else is competing in the world market, and you're letting your government subsidize your businesses, and therefore you're cheating. And so we're not okay with that. And your willingness to, do what most countries aren't willing to do and recognize the Taiwanese and allow the Taiwanese to open an office in Lithuania. Those are measures that most countries are too afraid to take. The Lithuania, let me be very clear, regardless of your politics, regardless of who's in power in the government, regardless who's in the presidential office, always take very similar positions. You don't have massive swings in ideology. And what I love about Lithuania is regardless of who's in your government or who's in your presidential palace, America has always been a huge priority and one of the top priorities of every single administration in Lithuania. And that's special. If you think about it from our perspective, you go around the world and you think, where are our closest allies and friends? You assume, America, we're a popular kid, like everybody likes us, we're friends with everyone. That's not true. Not everybody likes us. There's a lot of countries that don't like us. And so I believe, and I continue to urge the Trump administration, let's focus on the countries that love us. And Lithuania is high on that list of countries that love us. So double down on those relationships versus worrying about the relationships of countries that will probably never love us.
Eric, before we go deeper, and actually we are of the same age. I'm also 53, we are the same Reagan generation. But okay, Vincentas.
Karen McDonald, ambassador, will turn 53 this November. So all three of us are 53. So it's a cool age to be.
But Vincentas, was born a bit later, and and he is, he's living between America, Brussels and Vilnius. So shoot your first question, and we will go deeper. Please, Vincent.
Yeah, right. First of all, thank you very much for both your time and your nice words about Lithuania. It's always a pleasure to hear nice things said about my home. But my first major question is, and I'll lead into it. Essentially, you're absolutely right. We do love America, and we do love American values. And the reason we love America so much is because we, in a sense, aspire to be America. We aspire to espouse the values of America, and we really do try and do that, to try and embody what it means to live free, to live in a democracy, to really give our people the means to pursue happiness, right, as it says in your Constitution, and that is something that we truly do love and aspire to have. But then let me be frank, and forgive me for doing so, but for the time being, sometimes it might not look like our dear and beloved Americans maybe are straying from those very same values that we really aspire to embody ourselves. So how should we react to that in the current day?
Vincentas, if you don't mind, because we've evolved our age. How old are you?
I am 19.
19. Okay. So I have two 20-year-old twins. I have a boy and I have a girl. So I know a lot about young generation. I know a lot about young kids. I have a lot of my team members that are in their 20s who work for me. This generation you use the right word, likes to react, right? You react to emotions, you react to feelings, you react to every action, every post, every tweet, every whatever it might be, there's a lot of drama, to be honest with you, in the younger generation that you didn't have in older generations. And so what I would really, really urge, watching these reality TV shows, like, to me, it's absolutely the worst thing on television, but the kids love them. So who am I to judge? But don't be overly reactive to every word that is said, to every tweet that is put out, to every actions that are taken. This is a very long-term relationship. We've had a very long history between America and Europe, and America and Lithuania. We will have a very long future going forward. So there will be bumps in the road. There will be mistakes made. There will be things that will be said that might be hurtful or might, not feel right or might not feel wonderful, but don't focus on those. Don't overreact. Play the long game and know that, again, when you're 53 years old, this will all be a part of the past. It will all be history, and will likely all be forgotten. Our destinies are tracked together. We are going to be, we will be friends for life. We share the same ideals, as you said. And so those kind of things can't be easily changed or easily broken. So I really would urge the young generation to keep aspiring to play in the NBA, keep aspiring to drink American bourbon, keep aspiring to be like America and do business in America, because it is the right path and the right way, regardless of, again, some words that might be said back and forth.
One thing, well said, but I mean, granted, and people do keep saying this, and they're absolutely right. rhetoric is absolutely one thing, but what we've seen this week isn't just rhetoric. Europe has been slammed out. All of the closest allies of America have been slammed with massive tariffs. This isn't just rhetoric anymore. This is concrete action.
Sure.
Can I add, deepen exactly, because I remember, 20 years of our discussions, Eric. I remember when we created this American-Lithuanian Council, you said to me, Žygis, we land in Vilnius with a lot of and big American businesses, but this is also with some vision. We know that sooner or later you will defeat all the devils in the region. And the whole region from Baltic to Black Sea will be open for American business, but with Lithuanian guidance. So when I see to current decisions, for example, not to include Russia, Belarus, Korea into this package of tariffs, when I see American president saying, "Oh, Ukrainians, forget about NATO membership," we will never forget about NATO membership. We will fight for EU and NATO membership, and with the EU, we have a plan till 30 to make them member, despite anything we have, because we have that long-term vision that you just said. So it's like a bit strange for me that it is in American interest to build countries on freedom and democracy and empower countries like Ukraine. Instead, we have this strange shift or play or neutral play with Russians, Belarusians. We even hear, Eric, that Americans are trying to warm up economic relations with the Russians. Not only diplomatic embassies opened, talks about Nord Stream, that Americans will be buying Nord Stream and developing it, financial and energy engagements. This is nightmare for us because it empowers our enemy that will attack us and is killing Ukrainians every day. So what about those shifts? Or maybe we just, we shouldn't take it seriously.
Yeah, it's my short answer is it's usually part of a strategy that is a little bit of a change in the normal playbook from most other strategies and a lot of risk. And so they're not always going to work, but they're going to try different strategies. And when I mean the Trump administration tried things that haven't been done before. If you look back to the previous Trump administration, there was a big push back then on Belarus. There was a push on North Korea. There was a push with Iran. There were a push with countries where the previous administration said, nope, we're not talking to you. We're not doing anything with you. This administration is willing to take those chances and take those risks and say, hey, if we do things differently, maybe there will be a different outcome. If we do things the same way, there's going to be the same outcome. To go back to this, the questions about the tariffs and the actions that are taken, you're 100% right. Actions are taken. But I look at it a little bit like, if you go back to the Trump 1.0, and they pushed every country in Europe, every member of NATO, to spend 2% of GDP on defense spending. That was a good thing. That was a good push, a good outcome, because it made countries say, whoa, hey, we should be spending more. We should be defending ourselves. Now you have Poland, who's pushing 5% of their spending, if not 6%. They're now defending Europe. And that's a position that I think Poland welcomes. Poland is not going to be a pushover. Poland could not be invaded by Russia today. And in my opinion, Russia couldn't take Ukraine within years. They're not going to invade Poland. Poland is now a significant leader. And so sometimes the actions have positive consequences, although they feel sort of like punishments from the beginning, right? And I feel like the tariffs are very similar in that sense, that these types of actions are essentially messages. They're essentially, hey, listen, things aren't fair. Why are we, paying this X amount of dollars and you're paying nothing? Why are we paying 65% and you're paying nothing? It's not intended to say we don't like you. It's not intended to say we're not friends. It's not intended to say we don't want to do business. It's intended to a little bit of mix of politics, right? As a politician, Žygis, that you try to follow through on things you make during the campaign promise. So it's a mixture of Trump trying to come through with campaign promises that he's going to level the trade field for American companies. And so he's doing that. But at the same time, he's trying to reach an outcome. And I think that what you'll see, because there have been so many tariffs thrown all over different countries, all over the world, and different strategies, I think you'll see the overall strategy evolve from the reactions that come from the different parties. You have some countries that'll be like, you know what, you're right. We should level out the tariff. Let's have a free trade agreement. Let's make this zero. And you'll have countries that will react emotionally and say, oh, if you do this, we'll do that, and we'll equal it, and then it becomes a fight. And those are the scenarios that will spin off into potentially a negative direction. The ones that say, yes, let's come to the table, let's be adults, let's be calm, let's have conversations. And actually, I think Lithuanians have done a very good job of that. I think your government has done a good job of that in the beginning, to not react in the media, to not react in the press, and to not be overly emotional. There is a plan, there is a strategy. It's not necessarily fully thought out, but it's sort of a developmental strategy as they see how things react, how countries react as they take various actions. But please, they're not intended to be, we don't like you. They're intended to be like, let's get to the table. It's one thing to say, hey, Europe, let's sit down at the table and talk about a free trade agreement. We've been talking about a free trade agreement between the United States and Europe since the 1990s, right? Like, and it's never happened. So this administration is going to say, hey, we're taking drastic action, and we might force the conversation to happen sooner than it ever would, because we've been talking about it for 30 plus years and it's never gone forward.
Well, okay. If Vincentas, you have a question, tell. Just, as a follow-up, the problem is, Eric, we are a very pro-American nation, and that's why our reaction is a bit, we do not over-dramatize it, but we have many other Europeans who take it very deeply. And what I read from our meetings in Brussels, they try to search for new markets. And one of those big new markets is China, what I'm afraid of. We are afraid that China will load all those products that are now banned from American markets in Europe, and that will actually might crush some of our industries. So it might have a long-term structural changes. So I really hope that we are coming back to this old Reagan-style freedom agenda, defending it, because we don't have any explanations like that from Trump administration. We just have a tough game. Can you imagine? We even have in Brussels, we have negotiations. China was just bullying us because of Taiwan. Russia is bullying us all the time. Now America is doing the same. People say we have that instrument against those bullyings in Brussels. So should we use it against America? It's, of course, we say no. We have to take it calm. But the effect might be long term of those actions, because business reacts like that. Vincentas, please.
Yeah, I mean, what I like to add is that looking at on the grander scale of things, America doesn't get to be the patriarch and said use aggressive strategies when it comes to dealing with Europe and tariffs, but also at the same time want Europe to be equal in a sense, stand on its own 2 feet. You either get to be the big daddy, so to say, lay down the rule of the law of the land, but at the same time you have to fill out your part of the deal and be the defenders of Europe, or you have to look at us as genuine partners, as partners of equal worth, and play by the same rules. And if we play by the same rules, it means that we get to put tariffs on you guys as well, and it's not good for either side.
Yeah, and that's why I, again, would urge and continue to urge the Lithuanian politicians, to urge the Brussels politicians to please don't hash this out, in the public. Don't hash this out in the press. Hash this out in a conference room, with USTR talking to DG Trade. Let's find out what the true goals are for the Trump administration. Find out what the true ambitions are. What do you really want to get to? Because again, the administration loves press. They love media. They love, creating the chaos that throws everybody into a tailspin. Don't fly into a tailspin. Remain calm, remain focused, remain dedicated, and just simply sit down and what do you want to accomplish? You don't necessarily need to accomplish the same goals through using tariffs as a stick. There probably are ways to achieve the same goals by other mechanisms, by other discussions, by other negotiations. But this is a we're going to ring the bell as loudly as we can, make as much noise and scare as much people to get the attention to say we are serious about this. Now the goal is for the Europeans to sit down and say, okay, what is this that you actually want to accomplish? And I do think there are some positives as you alluded to, right? Like, I think there can be some positives that come from this. If you end up with a Lithuania that says, hey, listen, okay, things are a little bit difficult with America right now. We're doubling down on our friendship with Poland. We're doubling down on our friendships with, the other Baltic countries. We're doubling down with Germany. Like, that's not always a bad thing, right? If Europe comes out of this stronger militarily and economically and doesn't say, hey, we're always sitting. I mean, we were waiting for America to intervene, when Russia invaded Georgia. We were waiting for America to intervene when they invaded Ukraine. We're always waiting for America to intervene, right? And there is potentially a point where you say, okay, hey, we're Europe. We've got this. Thanks, America. We might call on you for some help, but you don't need to lead from the U.S. We've got the Ukraine situation. We've got whatever Putin's next move is. We appreciate the help and support, but we're not going to be down on one knee asking for your savior every single time. We've got this. We're prepared. Poland, Lithuania, right on the front lines. We're spending the money. We've got this.
Thank you, Eric. I agree with you, but we need explanations like this. We need talk like that, and I hope we're going to get it. And as you said, Europeans do not try to overreact. Even they do not, tax bourbon. We had in the proposals to add some tariffs, but we appreciate bourbon as freedom drink, as we know from our old jokes in Kentucky. And yes, Lithuania is 75% open economy. We do, we produce for export. We are born with this Reagan dream. And my question to you, so you assure us that this is not the end of Reagan dream? Because some say Trumpism is kind of reverse Reagan. It's like what we hear from history. Monroe Doctrine is just closing America, in Americas. And then actually you have some other leader. Then when Monroe Doctrine was established, it was Britain actually ruling the world. So I hope America is not pushing for another leader, be it China or, I don't know, be it Europe alone. We want to do it with you. We want to do it together. But okay, those are just good Lithuanian American reactions. Vincentas?
Well, that was actually very close to the reaction that I wanted to give, and on a similar note, I mean, theoretically, yes, in the long run, having this, as the French like to say, and the Germans would like as well, I think, the strategic independence for Europe. Sure, maybe that's good for us on the very regional level, but in terms of our values, for Western values, for the collective West, for transatlantic relations, that's no good. We don't want Europe to be alone. Yes, theoretically, it might be good to be more self-reliant, but it's not good for what we want to achieve as a civilization. At the end of the day, I mean, as we're not just trading partners, we're not just companies. We are a civilization, a society with a certain value structure that we do want to maintain, because we do believe that Western style democracy is the way to go. We do believe that freedom is the way to go, not like the Middle East or the Far East. That's not what we're about. And having America have these new leaning towards isolationist policies, at least for the time being, it does make America smaller, as Gigas does like to say quite often. And he's not wrong. We want to be bigger. We don't want to be smaller.
Maybe last point, Eric, if you could react also to that. I'm now finishing my read of Lev Dobransky book, the father of Paula Dobransky. And in his strange, interesting book about captive nations, what he's writing, he and other Ukrainian Americans, they were trying to push American administration after Second World War to be more, to engage with those liberation movements, with our guerrillas, with Ukrainian guerrillas, that NATO should be active fighting the Russians. But as he's writing, this appeasement faction of different American administrations won. Like, just let's contain Russia, do nothing, just defend NATO. Very defensive move. But he's writing, if we would be able to win, maybe this drama of 50 years wouldn't never happen. And only Reagan took that agenda seriously. Only Reagan started to fight. So sometimes Americans do not understand, because you are a very powerful nation, how powerful are your words and policies. Because when Europeans and our enemies start feeling that America is withdrawing from Europe, they are immediately getting in. They are occupying countries. They're taking back signals, like Russians took bad interpretation of American withdrawal from Afghanistan. They attacked Ukraine. So now when Russians and Chinese or Belarusians hear this kind of policy, what I'm afraid of, they might start attacking us in a very, with a very stupid, strange interpretation of things, but this is what's happening. Americans out, Russians and Chinese in.
Yeah, it is an interesting transformation within our politics. What we've actually seen now is the Republicans are actually the blue collar working class citizens now, and Americans, and the Democrats are more the white collar college educated. So our parties have really inverted in a sense, and so now you have Trump, who's representing a Republican Party that looks very different than the Republican Party I worked for under President Bush, the 43. And what the politicians are hearing from the constituents is that they feel overly extended in places where maybe they shouldn't be overly extended. They feel overextended in Ukraine and the Middle East and all these different conflicts. And again, you go to the USAID programs. Why are we spending $20 million to teach Sesame Street in Iraq, right? That $20 million could be used very differently in a very positive way. Why are we, doing transgender classes in North Macedonia or wherever it was? And so there's the feeling that the U.S. is overly extended in many, many areas, and that we want to right size that. He wants to right size the size of the U.S. government, right? And that's why the 14,000 federal workers have been laid off. He's trying to take bold and drastic actions that have never been taken before, that most people would never have the courage or the guts to do it, whether you believe it is right or wrong. And I don't necessarily see it as a isolationism as much as it is we feel overly extended in so many areas and so many different directions that we need to pull that back a little bit. We need to right size it, because it just keeps going and more and more and more. We're doing more for others than we are for ourselves. And to your point, it's very difficult for us to really see the rest of the world, right? Because we are so wealthy, we are so successful, we're always winning the most gold Olympics. We only have two neighbors, one to the north, one to the south, whereas Europe, you have 27, friends within your club. Like, you think more, in a sense, somewhat more globally. Your citizens think more globally. Your neighbors all speak different languages, right? Our neighbors just have different twangs to how they speak English. I think I read some statistic that like 17% of Americans have ever left America and gotten a passport to travel outside, right? Like, we are not nearly as worldly as a lot of as citizens as the Europeans are. And so now Trump is listening to that part of the party and that part of the base that says, why are we spending money there, not here? And so I think you're going to see a right sizing. I don't see it as a shift in our philosophy. I don't see it as a shift in our ideology. I would actually tell you that I would still say that most Republicans, most economists would say tariffs don't work, and this isolationism doesn't work. The last time we tried it was in 1929, which led to the Depression. I think there are very few economists that would say this is a good tool, which is why I don't think this is a long-term strategy. I think this is a smash and grab. Let's get the attention, let's get to the table, and let's have some real change. But I don't see it as a long-term strategy. And as far as on the politics and the diplomacy and the leadership, I do worry a little bit about it. But I think that's where, countries like Lithuania and others in Europe sitting down, making sure we're on the same page with Marco Rubio, making sure we're on the same page and I think if you sit down in a closed door room and you have those conversations, you'll see that very little has changed and that things are still very, very positive, moving forward in a positive direction. But again, there's this constant love and need for, social media and press releases and, you can't go to a cocktail party in Washington, D.C. or with friends or political friends and not talk about Trump and what Trump is doing. And he loves it, right? He absolutely loves it. And so we sort of have to, you have to manage that. But at the same time, sit down and have real conversations. And, again, I think the Baltics are very smart in sitting down together continually. I actually think that the Baltics and Poland should all four sit down together with Marco Rubio and the team and talk about, because you are the front lines with the neighbors to the east and Russia, and so I think there's a real argument there for you are four countries that they should be listening to very, very closely.
As a sort of last bit from me, I was just reacting to something that you said regarding the feeling of the American populace that, in a sense, you're overextended. But when you agree that the American populace, at least on this point, is somewhat misinformed. I mean, sure, we had plenty of similar feelings, among the American populace when we were fighting the Second World War. When America was the last to come in, the American populace didn't want to come to help us. It was great leaders like Churchill, like FDR, that really brought America in, that brought America to save us. And look how that worked out. That, in the afterwar period, that's what made America what it is today, or what it was up until now. The great economic power, the world police officer that we were all kind of okay with, because because alongside that we were both protected by America, and our economies grew bigger because of that, Pax Americana.
Yeah, and you're not wrong, and I'm thankful that somebody young like you knows history, knows the leadership, knows the names of former presidents that aren't currently in power today, which is very impressive. But I would say I think that what the expectation, what the hope would be, is that America can take China on by itself, but it's not going to be as effective if America takes on China with a strong Europe doing a very, very similar approach, right? China, in my opinion, does not want to engage in a military war. I do not believe they want to invade Taiwan. I don't think they want to give up Taiwan, but I don't think they want to invade Taiwan. They want to win economically. They want to win by winning road construction contracts in countries in Africa, and then shipping 200 Chinese workers and families into Africa, and then next thing you know, you have a Chinese population in certain countries in Africa. They want to win in that sense, and it's easier to win that way when you're not reliant on returns on investment, when you're not going to your board asking if you can spend more money. It's the government making the decisions for a lot of these companies, and again, that's why they're cheating. And we need countries like Lithuania to stand with us and say, no, that's not acceptable. And so I think having a stronger Europe, having a stronger Latin America, having a stronger even to a certain extent Middle East, and other countries in Asia helps our argument and helps us. And so I think that's, again, I always remain optimistic, because I don't think there's any other way we should think. We always should think optimistically. You can always be cynical, but continue to think optimistically. I'd like to see those types of positive, outcomes as a result of these types of various actions. And I think that can be the case, with regards to Russia. I think Russia is a very weak country. I think they're weak economically. I think they're weak militarily. I think they're, fairly weak even politically. They don't really have much there, right? They thought they would take Ukraine in 2 or 3 days, and here we are years later. Tiny Ukraine with very little to defend itself has done so admirably. So to think that Russia could continue to be a superpower, I think they're a superpower in their own mind. But I don't necessarily think that they're actually a superpower. I worry about, of course, we all worry about them having nuclear missiles. But as far as their military and as far as their army, as far as their economy, they are, I think, a very, very weak country. That strategy and that negotiation is again, I think, very unique from the administration. I'm hopeful and optimistic that they will get it right, but again, I think they're trying to do it in a way that's not been done in the past.
Thank you, and Eric, and also last words from me. You're absolutely right. And first of all, thank you for everything you do to strengthen that link. When we started with you, this American-Lithuanian Business Council, nobody believed that actually America might be so big in this little Lithuania. Americans are biggest job creators to compare with all other direct investors in Lithuania. Keep doing it. You're bringing now great new defense industries. We need your expertise. We have more and more money. We have our own defense commission in Brussels who are raising new and new money, with Germans who put on the table just 500 billion. And they just announced our new coalition today. They're moving forward like big, strong European leaders. We can do it, but our world becomes really global. We do not fight only Russia in Ukraine. That's also China. That's also North Korea. And we need America to see the whole picture. We agree with you. Europeans have to be much stronger. Oh my God, we are one of the richest clubs in the world, and we have to look like Americans of Europe. We have to be strong. Those enemies have to be afraid of every Lithuanian or Polish or Latvian and Estonian move. But we need to do it together. And I have a dream till the end of my life. I have spent half of my life by integrating Lithuania into EU and NATO. I want Ukraine in EU and NATO. It will take Moldovans in, it will take big parts of Caucasus in, and it will finally end the Russian Empire that is still, kicking and fighting and killing us. And we can create Europe whole and free. But for this, we need to do it together. All those bad guys of this planet will not, stop. And they want to divide us as much as they can. So thank you, Eric, again. Please continue bringing those American investors into Lithuania, and see you soon. I will be in DC like every month with different groups of Europeans screaming the same. Americans, let's stay together. Let's drink bourbon together. And, no tariffs, please. We love bourbon. It's the best. So, okay. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, my friend. Great to see you.
Absolutely. Okay. See you soon. Goodbye. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Na, Eriko pozicija aiški. Tai esą strateginis JAV žingsnis siekiant privesti Europą prie derybų stalo. Tai klausimas išlieka. Ar tikrai taip turėtų atrodyti bendradarbiavimas ir bendravimas tarp sąjungininkų? Ar spaudimas ir ekonominiai smūgiai yra tai, kuo grindžiamas 21 amžiaus transatlantinis bendradarbiavimas? Jeigu tai strategija, mums reikia atsakymą. Ne emocinio, o valstybiškai apgalvota. Kaip Lietuva, kaip Europa, turime žinoti, ką darom toliau. Šis pokalbis parodė, kad net ir tarp partnerių atsiranda atotrūkio, kai vieni kalba apie sąjungą, o kiti apie spaudimą. Ir būtent dėl to tokie pokalbiai reikalingi, kad nesusikalbėjimas netaptų tylėjimu. Ačiū, kad buvot su mumis, o jeigu turit savo nuomonę, parašykite ją būtinai komentaruose. Kuo daugiau girdim jūs, tuo daugiau galime pasakyti mes. Iki sekančio.